Okay, so I'm gonna let this pass, just circulate once. Those are the herbs in the Rice Creek herb garden. I was asked to give a talk on the herb garden, and I knew by this time they will not be left in flower. So I took photos, and they are here. Otherwise, we could have gone to the herb garden. So I will just let it actually circulate just once, and then you can start all of them. Those did not flower at the same time. Of course, they flowered at different times. There is not much in flower now, maybe few. The beautiful Asuigo tea. I have a story to tell about this puppy, but maybe at the end, a funny story. When I came new to Asuigo.
I love puppies.
And this is a dedication for Andy Nelson, who passed away recently. Here you go. Not now. Okay, anybody know the plant in the background? Pardon me? Very common in our area. I think you call it, it's a ground cover vega. Yes, which is medicinal. Okay, so with that, let's start. I was asked to give, as I mentioned, a talk on this, and I thought it would be helpful if we could focus it on also the origin of Western medicine. That is the medicine as we know today. Of course, before that, there were so many stages before we get to the Western medicine. So I will give an introduction on the herbs and spices first, and then a brief history of herbalism, meaning actually the use of plants in medicine, and then the transition to Western medicine. And when I come to that, I will give 3 examples of the plants, of the medicinal plants in the herb garden, and in some detail. And then after that, briefly, I will go over some of the plants which are well-known medicinal plants, like jaguar. Okay. I don't believe the technology can fail today. Let me see if I could change the remote here. Is Linda here? She can get us a battery. Let's all start with, I think we need it. Yeah, the battery. Okay, keep going. All right, so this is the introduction for the herbs and spices. Those 2 herbs and spices are linked to the extent that you cannot mention one without the other. Other than this, actually, they also link in the effect on human and in the way we use them to spice the food to give it flavor. They have little to no nutritive value simply because we use very little of them in the food we eat, and also actually typically they don't have any nutritional value anyway. There's no evidence they have adverse effect on human. As a matter of fact, actually, it has been actually said people who eat spices, they will have a healthy digestive tract. And actually, they have a long history, especially the spices. They have when we before the refrigerator, and at the time when Europe was the center of the world, actually they were very expensive, and whoever controlled the trade of the spices actually get the wealth and the fame. Of course, spices are not available to the European. Spices are native to Southeast Asia, so they have to go there and get it. And so whoever controlled the trade over the herbs and spices, especially the spices, actually got rich. And for this reason, the European countries at the time struggled for power, for the control of the spices, and for quite some time. And then when the road became unsafe between Europe and Southeast Asia, the European paid attention to using the sea. So they sent voyages. And that led us to the age of exploration. For example, Vasco da Gama sailed around the tip of South Africa, and he is the first European to discover the Cape of the Good Hope, which is a city at the tip of South Africa. And in this same process, the age of exploration, the Americas were discovered.
Yes. Takes 3 people to find that.
Okay, so that age of exploration actually was followed by the colonization of the African countries and Southeast Asia. And that's what was meant by it shaped the world as we know today. Our borders in these countries were like drawn randomly. And that's why we have trouble always between the North and the South, between the Celts and others, because of those borders which were drawn by the European country looking for agricultural products, including the spices, and of course other things like the silk and the gold. So the chemistry and ecology of those herbs and spices, the flavor actually in these herbs and spices is due to what we call essential oil, which is produced in these plants. So those essential oils are produced by specific cells or glands, and I think we can see it here. This is an electron microscopy of those cells and glands which produce. This is a pointer. Those are the glands anyway, which produce those essential oils.
Come on. Here's a pointer. Got it. It is this one. Yes.
So to the rescue. Okay, so that is where those are produced. I mean, those essential oils. So if those essential oils are produced by the leaf, we call them herbs. And if they are produced by anything else like the bark, the roots, or the flowers, or the seeds, then we call them spices. The other definition, the botany definition, which is not better than that, but generally in botany, herbs are temperate vegan plants, and spices are tropical. That is in botany. What's the function of those essential oils, which are usually they are secondary compounds, so they don't affect the plant that much. So we're trying to explain why do those plants produce it. So one of the reasons it could be it's the waste products, and the plant want to sequester it, and that's why it appears on the surface and you can smell it. Another explanation is the predators, those which insects and animals which feed on the plant, it might drive them away. And the third one it would be for competition. And that's not unusual in plants. Plants always produce chemicals, they leach them in the soil, it will prevent the germination of other plants in the area, including the pond, by the way. So which one of those? At my age, I know it doesn't have to be one or the other. All can be correct for one plant or another, depending on the plants. So some plants we produce it as a waste product, some to deter predators, and some could be for competition. So now actually I'm going to start at the history, a little bit of the history of plants in science, in medicine. At the beginning, how did it start? How did human knew about those plants? It seems like actually they ate some food or they have some juice, which is the pain and the fever, and they notice that. That is one explanation. The other is explanation of the doctrine of signature, which say if the physical feature of the plant or it is shape or its color or its smell, those physical features may reveal its medicinal value. So for example, if the plant part look like a human organ, like the liver, then they think God communicated with them. That plant which look like a liver might cure liver disease. If the plant look like a snake, they can use it for snake bites, for example. Those are just examples of the philosophy of the doctrine of signature. But generally, actually, plants were used in medicine some 60,000 years ago. And this evidence came from a grave of a Neanderthal man. Plants were buried in that grave, and the examination of the pollen grains which survived showed that a lot of those plants which were buried are medicinal. Another evidence which came a little bit later from the Sumerian, which lived in modern-day Iraq. Their actually writings showed medicinal plants. There's also their drawings showed medicinal plants. Also, the court of Hammurabi, the king of Babylon, also in modern-day Iraq. Actually, his code actually showed or mentioned medicinal plants like the opium and the others. So going from the Babylonian and the Sumerian, ancient Egyptians also used plants in medicine. Some 700 plants were documented, including, for example, aloe for stomach pain, cannabis for headache, garlic for heart disease, and mandrake for pain relief. By the way, actually, mandrake is in the nightshade family. And the nightshade family, known for its poisonous plants. There's a lot of poisonous plants in that plant. So it was used actually as an aphrodisiac, and then they also use it in witchcraft at the time. Going also to ancient China, and by the way, the Chinese actually have wonderful textbooks on medicinal plants. And today you're going to see a number of those plants actually turn out to be medicinal. So ancient China actually, the Fangsang, the book, published around the 1600. But the work in it is really old. It was the work of the Emperor Shiman, who lived 4,500 years ago, documenting those plants. There's a number of plants, as I mentioned, but just to mention one of them, the tea. The tea was discovered by Shiman. He was boiling water for taking a bath, and the tea leaves fell in the water. The water changed color, and he dried it. Came up with the tea. Yeah, that's great. India, they have also, just like the cave of Babylon, also they have the Rig Veda, those for the Indian, which is a collection of sacred verses And as you mentioned, in the past, there is no separation between social things and science. Actually, they all come together. So the Rig Veda is a collection of Indian verses, which resulted in a traditional Indian health care or health system. They call it right there. Ayurvedic, something like that. Okay. And one of the plants actually mentioned there, the snake root, which is a sedative. And as you mentioned, if the plant look like something, then it will cure it. So they use the snake root for to cure snake bites. But this plant, snake root, used to be very helpful in today's medicine for hypertension. It is used for that hypertension. The Belgians, which show us medicinal plant in the New World in South America. Sorry, summarize the Aztec traditional medicinal plants. It's a really wonderful text. It is illustrated that much plant, 184 plants, and how they can be used in medicine. And actually, it was collected in a book as a gift, that's in 1592, as a gift to King Charles of Spain from De la Cruz, who was a healer in South America. Anybody know this?
I've seen it.
Yes.
Yeah. The Jamestown settlers thought it was tobacco, so they gave the smoke in order to, out of commission for a period.
Yes, it's true. But my story is a little different. That was I appreciate it. That is what happened at the end of the story. It's actually people.
Yeah.
Here it is. It is a hallucinogenic plant. And actually, the Aztecs use it for caregiving. So if they give it to the person who will pass away, then they can do the surgery on him or her. So also it's used as a hallucinogenic plant. The people who used it, they did not recommend it. They said actually you can have really, really deep dreams and terrible dreams. So I'm gonna pass those plants and I want to make sure I get them back.
Yeah. Where's that from?
It's just lucky. It is right outside there.
Oh,
Yeah, since I came to Sweden, I saw it 4 times. One is here in our garden, the air garden. One actually in the canal forest, and one when the campus center was renovated. It seemed like actually it came in soil. Yeah, I think so. But it is a hallucinogenic plant, and the ginseng is named just like the brother mentioned, because the settlers who used it and knocked them out for 3 days. They thought it's another or something like this. They put it, and they give it that name. They give the ginseng weed from Jamestown, Virginia, in that area. The name came from Jamestown in Virginia. Yes. Back to the Vedianos, which is the illustrated textbook of medicinal plants of the Aztecs, right here. As you mentioned, they illustrate the plants and they explain actually how you can use it for medicine. 184 plants. Going forward in history about the medicinal plants, Hippocrates, a Greek, who was described as a father of medicine at that time, and Hippocrates thought diseases are due to natural causes. Then he can use plants which are natural to cure diseases. And he also said some really wonderful things like those by nature overweight die before the slim, for example. He realized that. And also he recommended exercise. At that time, that's wonderful. Because people are already exercising, there's no fast, there's no nothing. Okay, so Hippocrates wrote and taught in under a tree with philosophy and naturalism. It's a large lane tree, which is a type of a sycamore. A descendant of that tree, which is now in Europe, more than 500 years old, considered the oldest tree in Europe. His work, those 70 books, were used as medicinal texts for that long, 2,400 years were used because of the plants on them and how accurate they are. I'm going to give example also for the Romans. The Scotus wrote the Martia Medica. This is also an illustrated book of medicinal plants, 600 of them. And also actually the Martia Medica actually was used as a textbook for about 1,500 years. The period after that actually was dominated by the Arabs and the Persians, who also actually they have on medicinal plants. Okay, so this here makes sense. The plants which were available at the time for the European, those are the plants which were incorporated into Western medicine, meaning actually scientists at the time look at those plants and they investigated scientifically and they found out they're very, actually medicinal plants were very helpful and they were used in most cases accurately. So for example, the willow which is used in Europe, bark, the willow bark, the gout and other pain relief medicine resulted in the production of aspirin. The Dan funnel was the contraceptive of choice at the time. It's a huge plant native to Europe. They use it as a contraceptive, and they're almost collected it to extinction. Yes, because
Was it a tea or what?
it's a tea from the beef. Yes.
That's what I like.
Anybody know what the ancient Egyptian used for birth control? No. Absolutely. They use it for that.
Oh, good.
Actually, they use it as a fishery. Are we confused there? What?
Accessory.
Okay, so that is about. And by the way, this the day funnel is effective in that. Okay, so here's a sample of the Demartia Medica, as you mentioned, wrote there, and it's the same like the Aztec textbook, illustrate the plant and show how it can be used in medicine. And I included this. This is Persian, so that means actually even the plants from Persia were available for the European at the time, and they were included in their textbooks. So that is a Persian one. Okay, now we're going to transition to Western medicine, actually the prescription drug as we know it. So the modern tests which they did on most of those plants actually proved that herbal medicine was effective. And then in the 19th century, scientists started to purify those medicinal compounds, whether they are alkaloid or glycosides, to purify them and put them in a form of pure pills or injection. And the first plants which were investigated, including morphine, 1803, and aspirin, 1826, which came from the bark of the woody plant. So what's the advantage of, instead of using the plant, you use the pure pill? I guess the most important thing is you can control the dose. So these are really, we do not call them drug for nothing. They are really drug and they can kill. If the dose is exceeding, then actually they will result in death. So purifying those chemicals, adjusting the dose, will be a safer use of those instead of using the plants. It's estimated 25% of the prescription in the US have their origin in plant, and that is very accurate. Because in some cases, as we will see, one plant can provide more than one medicine. In the rural areas elsewhere in the world, actually, the contribution of plants in medicine is greater than 90%. In some cases, there is no medicine at all. All they use or what is available for them are those plants. So plants did play a major role. We don't see them most of the time. Okay, so now actually I'm going to start 3 plants from the air garden. This is the first one of them. The vitalis or foxglove. It comes in different colors. They're really beautiful. And it is in the figwort family, Strophylaceae. We as botanists usually we love to put those plants where they grow. It's a biennial, meaning the plant actually grows the first year vegetatively, and in the second year it flowers and it dies. So if you have it from seed, it will not flower until the second season in our area. The plant is extremely poisonous, honestly. It can be very poisonous for human and for animals as well. So we have to be careful if you have them around. So the glycosides or the medicine which come from the leaf to treat dropsy, and dropsy is congestive heart failure. I think actually the old name is dropsy, the new name is congestive heart failure. So it's a heart medicine. There is another 20 species in this group, and they all have those glycosides. But this plant is the most used of them, of all those 21 species. Its history, actually, I just want to see how it has been used in the past and then what it can do today. William Withering is an English physician who was the first to scientifically explore actually herbal medicine, being actually with experiments. The foxglove actually is the first plant he worked on. Withering and very few other physicians were credited with the establishment of modern pharmacology. Meaning actually they investigated those plants, they made sure that's what it is, and then actually later came the extraction of the medicine from those plants. He learned about it from a lady who they said she was using a homemade like potion to cure diseases. And in the past, if you are a healer, you don't want to tell your secret, right? Because you want to make money, and then after you die or you become old, you give it to your sons. So they know actually the plant is foxglove, but they mix it to cover it up. They mix it with another 3 or 4 plants, so nobody knows which one cured it. But Withering actually was able to figure out that, and he said it is a foxglove which creates the congestive heart failure. So he was Withering. He was presented with a lady with congestive heart failure, and her conditions were really bad, and he thought she's going to die. And in a week, when she survived, she asked, and they told him that lady has the secret or the potion, and that's what she used for this patient. So that's how he got interested in the foxglove. So he tried it on his first patient. We're going to see it in the next page or next slide. in 1785, and he wrote about that experience. And I want everybody to read, so you can see how desperate people were at the time looking for medicine. So that's a description of the congestive heart failure. And if you notice cover, COLLOUR, we cannot like argue with the English people. So that is like word by word the description of his first patient, Mrs. Hill. Okay, so about the glycosides, how many actually in this plant? There is 30 glycosides, which could be medicinal, but only 2 so far were explored actually with great care. DD-toxin, which is a glycoside with a long-lasting effect. This glycoside is secreted through the liver, and it has a long effect. DD-oxin, a steroid. Steroids, they're also kind of glycosides, active component with a short-term effect that will be secreted from the body a lot faster through the kidney. So there is 2 choices for congestive heart failure, at least. If the patient, I'm not a doctor, but if the patient has liver problems, we'll take this. If they have kidney problems, they take that, right? So, but DD-toxin, the second one is the most common because of its short effect, because it will be secreted from the body faster. And as I mentioned, this is an extremely poisonous product. So those 2, DD-oxin and DD-toxin, are available for congestive heart failure. There's other actual studies. Lopez tried forest extract. As we mentioned, there is about 30 of them. So forest extracts of digitalis showed anti-tumor activity, meaning actually they can cure cancer. This is 2003. I don't know how much is done since that, but I'm not surprised knowing these kind of things. It may take many, many years until people pay attention to that and then follow up on it. Cass, to 2015, he did some research with the Jackson, and he said it reduced high pressure, ocular hypertension, and glaucoma. That's also some of those extracts can do that. A recent study published in the molecular pharmacology showed actually it can protect heart from injury. So there is other possibility that we get medicine from those 30 glycoside in this foxglove plant. Are you familiar with foxglove? I thought actually most of us are familiar. It's a poisonous plant. This is what is that in the garden. Anybody wanted to see it? That's a foxglove. Those are the commercial products for pets and for human. The brand names. And if you notice, actually the generic name is DD-oxin, probably with a little bit of modification. And that's something actually I did not mention yet. So we can either get medicine from plants right away, and we can take it from the plant, modify it a little bit to make it stronger or more stable, like a semi-synthetic product. But still actually digitized until today is used to produce those medicine. Commercial farming started after World War II. And if you remember what we said about the giant funnel, it was almost collected to extinction. So it would be a good thing to grow those plants in farms and harvest them so that actually the plants in the wild won't be harmed. So that is the right approach. Also in viticulture method, and increase the size of glyphosate. Instead of getting 30%, you can get 40% by a little bit modification in the lab. Okay, so that is in viticulture, which help also the plant to preserve the plant from extinction. And here actually we have time to talk a little bit about if human has an interest in the plant, then that plant will survive forever. So say, for example, look at the apples. We have interest in the apples. Look how many varieties of apples we have. Look at the corn. Look at those kind of things. So it is good strategy for the plant to give human something. Because forever, right? So that's not a bad thing for the plant. Okay. So in this one, actually, I wanted to show some spiritual things like the fairy tales. They said the fairies used to give the first glow to the foxes. They put them on their feet and they keep those and steal farm chicken. So they're only here to steal the farm chicken. That is one of the story. The other, of course, they use it to brew actually potions to cast a spell on human. The paganist religious rituals, they grow it in the holy gardens and they dedicate it to the living man. So those are some of the ethnobotanical uses of plants besides medicine. Okay, the second one is mayapple, Podophyllum dentatum. This is a plant I think most of us are familiar with. And it has two forms. This is one, 2 leaves only 2 leaves, and the fruit between, or the flower is between the 2 leaves. This one actually is the fruit which fell right there. That's a ripe fruit. The ripe fruit is edible. The green one is extremely poisonous. And also, this is not unusual. The potato is edible, but when the skin is green, you have to stay away from it because it has solanine, which is also poisonous. The tomato leaves are poisonous. The potato leaves are poisonous, and they're in the same family. So there is 2 versions. 2 leaves can reproduce sexually. 1 leaf cannot reproduce sexually at all. So you find them side by side. The 1 leaf is just for photosynthesis. Natural photosynthesis. Okay, so the medicine in the mayapple, Berbereaceae, they're native to Asia and North America. The medicine comes from the rhizomes. Actually, I put only one on my luck. So if it is too old, this rhizome or the root, well, we say roots, but they're not roots. This can be really big and thick, like the ginger, or thicker than that. But this is kind of a new one. So the medicine comes from there, not from the leaf. So how did we know about it? The native used it for a number of reasons, and Native American, to treat parasitic worms, skin disorder, tumors, some actually laxative, wart remover, and also suicide, actually poison, because it is also, as we mentioned, even the fruit when it's green, it is poisonous. So, and then actually the settlers also use it when they arrive in North America for typhoid, cholera, hepatitis, all those kind of diseases. And there's also evidence the Canadian use it as far back as 1885 to treat liver problems. So that's a really good example for North America. It's also in the garden, but it doesn't do well in the garden because its habitat is always under the trees. The garden kind of a little bit open, so it doesn't do well. It can grow, but not very well. It cure cancer. As I mentioned, the rhizome, and actually two chemicals were extracted from the rhizome or from those roots. Porphyrin and phytotoxin. Those are the two alkaloids, which are used as medicine. The phytotoxin was isolated in 1880, which is a long time ago. And those alkaloids treat testicular tumors and breast and lung cancer. It turned out, actually, as we mentioned, there is many species. They're native to North America or Asia. The North American species have the highest amount of concentration of those two chemicals which are used for medicine. Also, actually, renewable sources for those include microbial origin, meaning actually you can grow certain microbes in the lab, and those microbes can produce those kind of chemicals to save the plants. But they are available. The plant is available. At least in our area, it's not endangered or anything. There is plenty of those plants. The mayapple, if you look for it, under the woods. So some of the derivatives of the phytotoxin, there is two of them. The first one is tenopsides and etopsides, two. Each one has its own characteristics. The first one is semi-synthetic. Tenopside is semi-synthetic derivative. And also, as I mentioned, this is one of the things we actually know from plants. So there is a chemical, we don't know about it until we find it in the plant. And then actually, if it is not very effective or it's not stable, then we can semi-synthesize it, take the product from the plant, change it chemically a little bit like this one to be semi-synthetic, and it will be more stable. The other one, the etopside, etopside is not stable at all. And also they say it's not pure, but this one is a pure one. And it has actually anti-tumor activity because it inhibits the synthesis of the DNA. And if the cell cannot inhibit the DNA, then actually it will not actually be cancerous. Treat childhood leukemia and different kind of cancer diseases, Hopkins disease, brain tumor, and other types. The etopside is a chemotherapy, also used to treat a number of cancer types, which also that is the second alkaloid produced from this plant. Etopside was first synthesized in 1966 and approved in 1983. The tenopside, the first one, it was approved as a medicine in 1992. So kind of more recent medicines, if we can call 20 years recent. Aside from that, actually, from cancer, they also treat psoriasis, which is a skin disorder, and malaria. We have some treatment for malaria coming up. And it is currently, actually, this alkaloid is currently being tested for rheumatoid arthritis. It can be actually useful there. Another actually alkaloid is berberine, is another alkaloid in this group, which is used for neurological disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. I believe it's also still under experimentation. Berberine, from the name of the family of this plant, the RCA, also is used in plant anatomy to stain slides or actually slides which we want to magnify, and it has a specific purpose. I believe its use in plant anatomy is very similar to the cancer because it dissolved something in the cell. And I invite my friend and role model, Jim Singo, and maybe at the end, he can tell us about the use of berberine in staining slides, which, as I mentioned, can be related to its use as a cancer medicine. Okay, the third plant, sweet wormwood, Artemisia annua, is a medicine for malaria in the aster family. This is also a miracle drug. A little bit about malaria, for those who are not familiar with malaria. It's the most widely spread infectious disease, especially in the tropics. Of course, malaria used to be in this country, and I think recently we heard about malaria in Florida, right? Which is, I hope it's not going to come back. But actually, all these statistics is for 2019. 97 countries have ongoing malaria at that time. Of course, it depends on years. 3.4 billion at high risk and 1.2 billion at high risk, not at risk and at high risk. So it is a really crippling disease. Although people may not die from it, but they have to stay in bed for a week. And if you can imagine all these people had malaria, that will affect work of the country and productivity of the country. So it's responsible for about 500,000 deaths in these areas from 229 million cases, again in 2019. 67% of the cases were reported in children actually below the age of 5 years, something like that. So you can imagine the effect of children, especially if we say that tropical area where there is a lot of healthcare, and children are already malnutrition and so forth. So it is a really troubling disease in those areas. Mortality in sub-Saharan Africa, whether it's north or south of the equator, it's the same. All those countries are suffering from malaria. And actually, that's also one which adds to the trouble. Malaria is known to develop resistance. So, for example, right now, if you were going to West Africa, you take that medicine. And if you're going to East Africa, you take another medicine because all the medicines do not work in all the regions because of the resistance. So for malaria, we're always looking for new medicine. This one is, the Artemisia is one of those plants, the sweet wormwood and alkaloids. The plants used in Chinese traditional medicine for over 2,000 years. So the Chinese knew about this plant and they used it. Professor Yo-Yo Tu was awarded the Nobel Prize for her work, significant work on the development of this medicine, which is artemisinin. That is the generic name. And after she was given the Nobel Prize, then actually she shared it with another two scientists who worked with her. So artemisinin itself is discovered in 1970, and actually they said it represents one of the most significant contribution of China to global health, because as you mentioned, we're always looking for new medicine because of the resistance. Actually, it has been reported by World Health Organization, 22% of the 663 millions actually were affected or cured because of the use of this malaria medicine. But since it is its development, which is not far, like in the 70s, actually some regions right now show the resistance to those medicines already. But luckily, there is more than one alkaloid in this group, which can work like that. So for example, here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versions or derivatives of artemisinin, which can be used for malaria, this region or in that region. And it has been described as the most abundant compound from plants in terms of percentage of the dry weight of the plant. And also described as being the most potent and fastest acting drug. The early drugs like the quinine and others, actually they're not used that much, but they are still actually have used in a lot of countries. This one here is a study done by our student, Christian, in 2021, which is like 2 years ago. Actually, myself and Dr. Baker supervised his study for his honor thesis, and he experimented with those plants, 4 plants. The first one is the one in the herbal, this one. But all of them are native to the Western United States. All those 4 plants he experimented with were native to the Western United States. We brought the seeds. My God, seeds are really hard to grow. The seeds are kind of like dust, very tiny seeds. So if you put, let's say, 500 seeds, we got only 2 from them, or 3. But as soon as they take over, then you cannot kill them. Absolutely. So this is one. I want to pass it around, and please just like take a little leaf and crush it, and like small really. Take a small piece and drop it. Artemisia. So this is one of those actual 4 plants Christian experimented with. And here is his experiment. He separated actually after he waited until plants flowered, and he separated the leaves from the flowers, from the stem and from the roots. And actually he did chromatography, and then actually he compared it to the standard artemisinin, or the standard known artemisinin. And he found those alkaloids found in every single one of them. Our species actually has more or less the most in the leaf and in the flowers and in the stem and in the roots. So just to summarize, all 4 species do have the medicine in them, although actually the original one was not an American species, it was actually a European or Asian species. But all those species do have artemisinin as medicine. Other medicine from plants, actually this is what I'm made by. I'm going to just go briefly over well-known plants which gave us medicine, and most of us know about it. Just a reminder, aspirin, or actually the form of salicine, first came from the willow bark. Salicylic acid came from spirea. I believe you are familiar with spirea, right? Actually, it's very common house plant, or not house plant, garden plant. So spirea in the rose family. And acetyl salicylic acid is the synthetic one. So they're all aspirin. They all can actually ease pain. The difference is in how harsh they are. This is the most gentlest one on the stomach, right? And then the first one is harsh on the stomach. We cannot give to children. And this one is a little better, but this is what is used today. So again, we identify those chemicals in plants we didn't know about before, and then we can modify them for one reason or another. In this case here, like gentler on the stomach. So this is the technical of this aspirin for its use in cardiovascular disease. Now we use it for that reason, cardiovascular disease. So some 50 million Americans take 10 to 20 billion pills a year. So that medicine which came from the willow is still working in another capacity. Okay, fever bark, quina from South America. This is the first tree in the native South American they use for malaria. And it gave us all those quinine and quinine and all kinds of medicines. When I had malaria in high school, I'm not going to tell Gypsy when was that. I used, actually they gave me rosacea, which is not on the list. Rosacea. So there is so many different from the same. Quinine is still used today. I think quinine also they use it in tonic water. If somebody's familiar with tonic water, quinine is it. So that came from a South American tree, and the British, as they always do, they stole the tree from South America. They grow it somewhere else in the world. And very good plants. Indian snakeroot, that's a plant we mentioned in the Solanaceae or the nightshade family. The Indian use it to cure snake bites, but it turned out to be helpful for schizophrenia, hypertension. It's used a lot for this and insomnia. So that is another plant which we didn't know about, which came from the native cultures. Briefly, Madagascar periwinkle, which is vinca, and this is the vinca on the very first slide, or the background of the slide right there. This also actually, vinca or Madagascar periwinkle is an effective leukemia or cancer medicine. What we got from it is vincristine and vinblastine used for that purpose. Pacific yew or the taxon. This is a tree which is native to the Pacific Northwest of the United States. Used to produce a cancer medicine. Taxol lately became a paclitaxel for ovarian and breast cancer. If you notice here, actually, kind of this specialization, this kind of medicine work for those two which are related to the human, ovarian and breast cancer. So this tree, when it was discovered, it was almost connected to extinction. You need, I think, one tree, which is like 20 years old tree, to make medicine for one person from the bark. So they collected those trees, and we're very concerned about the plant. It's a conifer, it grows very slow, not like other plants, and it has to be 20 years to get medicine for one person. So the first medicine came from the bark. And then later they discovered the precursor of the medicine is in the needle or the leaf of the Pacific yew. So leaves, they're not going to kill the tree. So you collect the leaves or the needles and you extract the medicine and you would modify it to get the same medicine which you did. So that saved the tree. But otherwise, we were concerned. White birch for cancer also, betulin. 30% of the bark of the white birch, I think we're very familiar with the white birch, it used to also treat cancer. Jonah Fever was a chemistry professor, may God bless his soul, did some work before he passed away on this. A member of the chemistry department. Effective antiviral and antibacterial and anti-cancer. That is a plant which you are familiar with, the white birch. Okay, for mental, well, I just want to include one for the mental disease, St. John's wort. And the name St. John's wort came from the fact that the plant flowered around the birthday of John the Baptist. I think that's why they call it St. John's wort. The medicine from it, hypercin, antidepressant, very commonly used in Europe. It's actually sold as like a supplement, right? So it is the #1 sold medicine in Germany. It shows you how important it is, and not because the Germans are depressed, but I think actually they lived in it and it does work. So in the US, at least our physician thought, yeah, it worked for minor depression, not not like serious depression, but it does work for depression and it's sold as a supplement. The only warning on it is if you take those pills or supplements, you got to be worried about the sun. Actually, especially white folks skin can be very sensitive to this, and they can have like whatever cancer skin or something. So that is a warning on this one. Ephedra, which is a gymnosperm, like in the conifer group, for thousands of years. It's a source of ephedrine and pseudoephedrine. Anybody use those decongestant, pseudoephedrine? For decongestion and for hypertension, for asthma, weight loss. And this is what got it in the problem, weight loss. It has been abused because once you take it, the heart rate goes up as here. Yeah. And when the heart rate goes up, respiration also increases, you're taking more oxygen and you're breaking down fat. So it gives you energy and also at the same time, it can result in weight loss. Okay, so it has been abused for this reason. And now actually, if you buy a decongestant and you go to, let's say, Walmart, you're not going to get it on the shelf. You have to go to the pharmacist, you show them your ID, and they monitor it. So you cannot have more than how many pills a month, just because of the abuse in weight loss and most actually a New York baseball pitcher died 2003 because actually when they did the autopsy, they found ephedra in his blood. And athletes use it to get energy, right? And if you see the dose, you die. Okay. So ephedrine itself isolated in 1885, banned in many countries because of the meth. I use it a lot because I have allergies and I cannot imagine a plant person having allergy to plants. So I use it a lot until I read the strong warning about it, really strong. They said you should not give it to children under 15. That's number one. And it can result in heart problems, even in those who do not have like history of heart. So I quit taking it. So if you're taking it, please read that. Actually, read about it. Actually, it can affect the heart, even in healthy people. And they said also, even if you take a small dose. So I do not recommend using the supplement, which is available over the counter. Thank you. Yes, yes.
Spring or in the summer or not. It's summer football. Scrape your fingernails along the young twig of the leaves. And you put them, you don't even have to put your fingers to your nose. You can smell the salicylic acid of salicylate. Or aspirin, almost immediately. The different varieties of the trees, so they differ a little bit. The time of year and the strength of it will differ a little bit. It's a great way to experience aspirin.
And how is berberine work? Berberine, which we use for cancer, in the stem.
Well, I use berberine as a hemisulfate to stain things so that when you look at them under UV light, they fluoresce magnificent. So you can see the insides of plant tissue beautifully with berberine stains. And then you can knock it out of the cells with some kind of counter stain. And so you can see individual chemicals inside the plant really neatly. Berberine. Of course, it comes from the berberidacea.
Okay,
Marilyn and I like the berberidacea because we have a lot of mayapple going along our driveway. It's really neat compound.
Does it affect part of the cell, kill it or dissolve it?
Sorry,
Does it dissolve part of the cell or kill it?
no,
Okay,
no.
thank you.
It's usually, but it's useful mostly at the cell walls, plants.
Thank you. Questions?
Thanks, sir. Is this slideshow available, by the way, in the QR code?
It will, okay, not very soon, but actually, Christine will be here next week and then she will.
My question, plant produces tannins to protect itself. Does this have any correlation with the medicinal effectiveness or?
Yeah, if I remember, tannin has a very much, but I don't remember exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
Thank
sure.
With talisman, any bionic, is it better to collect for medicinal purposes during the first year or the second year?
I think it's same here, because always those medicine always enhance when flowing. And that could give you like a clue, maybe the plant produce it to encourage pollination. Yeah, so usually around flowing time would be the maximum. Yes. We done? Thank you, everybody. Thank you.